Great, thank you, Tim, and thank you to everyone for joining today. We'll begin with a bit of just a short company overview. So, as Tim mentioned, we were one of the early movers in the medicinal cannabis market here in Australia. So, we received just the third license to cultivate and manufacture medicinal cannabis for use in the country. We had one clear vision right from the start, and that was to bring the very first locally grown product to market. And we achieved that in August of 2018. And in fact, the second product to market that was locally grown was several years later. So that was a big milestone and a critical milestone for our market share. And we think that has set us up really well as this emerging market grows here in Australia, but also into overseas markets as well. The company is a vertically integrated company. We've specifically chosen to do that as a company so that we control everything throughout the value chain and optimize margins. And I'll talk a little bit more in some of our follow-up slides around what that actually means and elements of our manufacture, all the way from our cultivation through to manufacturing and distribution. We recently re-rated our cultivation facility up to a capacity of 3 tonne, and it's grown here in Western Australia and manufactured also here in Western Australia, but servicing countrywide and more recently into European markets. The interesting thing about it, or the point to make about our shareholding structure, is that we have a very, very motivated executive and board as a company. You can see there that we have a board ownership of over 20% of the company. In fact, Fleeta Solomon, our managing director, and Angus Caithness, a board member, have a combined 19% of the company. So I guess the point to make there is the company is incredibly well aligned to shareholder value. On a capital structure, we have certainly in the last 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks ago, our share price was 45 cents. And so we've certainly had a good run over the last few weeks, which has been fantastic. And we will continue to see, we think that this emerging market is beginning to open up more broadly, but certainly in Australia, we're now starting to see some month-on-month growth trends and more doctors in particular as key stakeholders beginning to prescribe the product. Let's jump off. I think the one thing, just back on the previous one, sorry, Tim, the one thing to note there is we do have a very strong balance sheet. We've spent all our capital, so capital to invest in our infrastructure from a cultivation and a manufacturing side has been complete now. And we don't have a need per se to go back to the market. So we're in a really strong position for growth into 2021. Thanks, Tim. I think the reason why we point to this slide is it's really, really critical. The industry, the medical cannabis industry in Australia and globally is certainly flooded in some sense. And for us, yes, we are absolutely driven by and motivated by shareholder growth. But what's really been important to us from a business from day one is really thinking about the patient. And we have a clear purpose, and that is to reimagine cannabis medicine and do extraordinary things for our patients. And we've done that from day one, and we've built we believe, one of the strongest brands in market, which will be critical to our future growth. Thank you. So jumping now, I'll give you a bit of a background as to the full supply chain. So beginning with the cultivation facility, as I mentioned, we've got an indoor facility here capable of producing up to 3 tonne of dried cannabis flower, which has the capability to produce us up to 300,000 bottles of medicinal cannabis oil per annum. We also have an additional capacity, if required in the future, to double the size within our existing structure here in the southwest of Western Australia. And I think what's important to note here is that we are not actually limited by the scale of our operation. We currently use high quality imported material as well from third party cultivation facilities from both overseas and here in Australia. And so our capacity to grow the cultivation and production is significant. Where we see our future in cultivation inside our existing indoor facility is actually producing flower as a finished product, which, believe it or not, is more difficult to produce than an oil. And the reason for that, specifically for the European market, is the specification limits on release must be plus or minus 10% of your ingredient. So if it's a THC 20% product flower as a finished good, it must be reproduced every single time to meet label claim. So that is something that other operations that are not indoor or perhaps outdoor or glasshouse operations will actually, we believe, struggle to achieve. And for that reason, we think the flower market, particularly into the European market, will be strong in the years ahead. From a manufacturing perspective, we recently announced that we received our Good Manufacturing Practice license, and we've done that on the same site as our cultivation facility. So that was a huge milestone for the company. It's been something that we've been working on for a number of years, and we are very close to releasing our first products, and our first GMP flower products will be at this stage sent to Germany early in 2021. Really in the middle there, the product development, this really is at the heart of what we do as a company. This is really, really critical. So, and also the foundation of really where we began as a company. But we've closely partnered with Curtin University, and we're working on, we have a global perpetual rights to what's called an ARISE technology, which is a small particle delivery technology specifically for the global medicinal cannabis product. And for us, we have the capability to be focusing on the market and selling our oil-based products and a broader range of products into the market. But the big play for us really is the drug delivery technology and bringing that out into market as we push towards the drug registration pathways. As a company, I think we've really excelled in our sales side. And when we say sales, we're talking about patient access and education. And this really is one of the key reasons for bringing out the first product, and why we were so driven as a company to bring out the first product to market, was to position our company in a scenario where we could educate all our stakeholders, including patients and doctors and healthcare professionals. So we continue to do that. We've built technology such as our medical portal, which enables doctors, streamlines the whole process for doctors to access all the information they require to prescribe medicinal cannabis. We're continuing to look at partnership opportunities to make this product more affordable. So we recently announced a partnership with the HIF, health insurance company, and they're actively promoting their product to their members, and it's been a really successful opportunity for them. And we're actively in discussions with other health insurance companies with the ultimate goal of creating a more affordable product for Australian patients. On the sales and distribution side, this really is the big prize, and we spent a lot of our time focusing on this. In Australia, we have got a really strong market share, somewhere between sort of market share number 2 or number 3. But certainly we've been working really hard in the European states countries to actually position our brand in those markets. So we've shipped 2 commercial shipments into the United Kingdom. And we recently shipped our very first product into Germany. That was over 2,000 units. And in fact, it was only the 3rd company in the world to send medicinal extracts into Germany, behind $2 billion Canadian companies in Aurora and Tilray. So that was a huge milestone for the company. Next one. Our growth strategy is actually really simple and really, really, really clear for us. So we begin in Australia. We see the Australian opportunity is significant, and we're here today, and we'll show you a growth chart in a moment on Little Green Pharma products in Australia. But we, as a country, I think we're probably around about 45,000 patients now in Australia, active patients. Now, independent research talks to there being roughly 2 to 3% of the population by 2025. So, I mean, if we look at that as a number, it's somewhere between 500,000 and 750,000 patients in Australia in the coming years. We're only sitting at 45,000 patients. So there's a huge growth opportunity just here in Australia. And in the position we're at in market share is absolutely critical for us to maintain and grow that position and to consolidate our position in the market. And first mover advantage has been critical and will be critical for that. But the international markets is probably where the big prize is. I think if we look at the size and scale of countries like Germany, which we've just recently shipped to, the challenges in actually delivering a product to Germany. There's lots of cannabis companies out there that talk about shipping to Germany, but very few that have been able to actually deliver. And it is incredibly difficult from a GMP perspective to do that. So Germany is a big market for us. France it will be an emerging big market for us. We're actively working into South American markets, and we've got other emerging European markets like Poland and Denmark that we're working on as well. And really, as I mentioned before, the end game really for us is about the innovation. And we have a team of people that are dedicated to the future research and innovation within this industry. Thanks, Tim. A quick snapshot of the company, and the track record. You can see there that the growth in a month-on-month or quarter-on-quarter is significant. Even just in our September quarter, our patients were up by 58%. You can see the revenue growth has been compounding since day one on a month-to-month and a quarterly basis. We expect this quarter to be no different. In fact, we expect 2021 to continue on a similar growth path. For us, 2020 with COVID has been a great year. We started the year with an estimated 11.5% market share in Australia, and we end the year with an estimated 16 to 17% market share. So there's only one or two other companies with that market share scale at the moment. So it's certainly been a breakout year for the company. Thanks, Tim. I'd like to give you a quick tour of our facility, and I'll talk you through as this video plays, hopefully. So this facility, as I mentioned, is based in the southwest of Western Australia. The video you're seeing here is actually our mother room. We use mothers to clone genetics to actually grow, put into our flowering rooms. From the mother room, we take our cuttings into propagation. You see here our clone domes. We take cuttings off the strong mothers, and they spend about 2 weeks in the clone domes, and then they transition into a potting room and then a vegetation room. So the vegetation room is there. That's really where the plants spend a number of weeks inside that room building some strength before they go into the flowering rooms for roughly 8 to 9 weeks. So the flowering rooms will use certain lights and certain fertigation to maximise the flower and maximise the yield, which is where we extract the medicinal qualities from. So once we've grown and harvested, we go into these drying rooms. This is where our GMP begins, our good manufacturing practice. The plants dry down to about 11% moisture, and then we move into a bucking and a trimming phase. So you can see here, this machine is trimming down to the flower and trimming off the leaf, and then we move into a production phase if we're producing oils, where we extract the resin from the flower using technology, or the other alternative is that as a flower is a finished good, we another processing step before we package and distribute through our networks. So I think just to finish off with this slide, one thing that we've really tried to do as a company from day one is to talk to the market about what's really important, and we do believe that we have got a reputation for delivering on the things that we say that we will do. And I think that's really important in this industry, but it's been a massive year for us. The TGA GMP manufacturing license was significant several months ago. Increasing our capacity in our expanded site gives us global scale now and presence to maximise the opportunity both here in Australia and overseas. The Health Insurer Partnership, it's all about driving value back to patients, which is critical, particularly in a time when we're many years away from there being a PBS cover for these types of medications. Fulfillment into Germany has been a 2-year plan, so that was huge for us. And although 2,400 bottles is not a huge order in terms of what we're trying to achieve into that market, it was a significant shipment, and certainly the first and largest shipment that we've seen from Australia. But what's ahead for us is really critical. We believe next year will actually be our true breakout year as a company. One of the big things we'll be announcing is a very large ethics approved study, and we've been working really long and hard on that as a rollout, and it has multi-layers to how we'll be rolling that out both here in Australia and eventually into the European markets as well. We're working on pathway deliveries into New Zealand and South America at the moment. And our first shipment of flour is due, as I said, early next year into Germany to our partner in Demecan, which is a local partner in country. We constantly have a meet the market strategy. So we're looking at the market, talking to the market, what are the products that are beginning to move and shift? And we saw in the back half of this year, there was a significant shift into flour-based products for Australia. So our first flour product will be available for Australian patients in January, but we're also transitioning into other ratios of cannabinoid medicine into the start of the next year as well. And we will see a rapid development of our Arise technology with Curtin University next year. So we have a 3-phase approach with Curtin, where we've begun phase 1, and we'll be obviously talking to the market as that one progresses into the new year as well. That's a really quick snapshot of the company. Thanks everyone for your time today, and thank you very much to Tim and the team at ShareCafe.
Paul, we've got time for one quick question. We're actually out of time, but and a quick answer if you don't mind, how important was that shipment to Germany, and how big is that opportunity?
Yeah, Tim, really quickly, it was probably the biggest announcement for us as a company. That market represents a huge opportunity for Little Green Pharma. As I said, there was Tilray and Aurora, the $2 billion Canadian companies, and Little Green Pharma became the third. So it's the first step of many that we believe in. In fact, on the back of that, we'll be looking to bring on a local team and replicate our sales and marketing success that we've achieved in Australia into that local market in the new year.
Thanks, Paul. That's all we have time for. Have a good Chrissy. We'll see you next year.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks, everyone.